This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Live from the virtual Watkins Glen International in Watkins Glen, New York. Welcome, sim racing fans, to the iRacing Formula 3.5 Championship here on the iRacing Esports Network, presented by Apex Racing TV. I'm your host, Joshua Lee. Joining me in the commentary booth is Austin Knight, and down in the control booth is Marco Barbonera. Austin, Watkins Glen is such a unique course on the iRacing service. What are the challenging parts of this track that each driver in the Formula 3.5s will be facing throughout the course of the race?
This track is very, very tricky and challenging. I was talking with a few drivers for the race. They absolutely love this track because it's pretty much flat out, except for a little key points in the car where you do have to brake, and these heavy braking points are all happening in this boot of Watkins Glen classical version. So no bus stop here, but the boot is going to be the trickiest point on this track, and turn one. You can go out wide in turn one, but you can't fling it out there by a mile, but expect some guys to go out there wide at the start of this race. Here are the championship standings. Tim Delisle stays at the top of the point standings by 200 points ahead of Paul Ilbrich and Greg Olson. Your top three, followed by Samborski, Bohr, Augusto, Lindstrom, Keeman, Crouch, Baja, Sorobkin, Morik, Herbino, Honan, Gedemar, Bill, Leovet, and Bradford. Your top 18 drivers.
Yeah, in this race, exciting week 10 of the championship. We only have 2 more weeks left here in the iRacing Formula 3.5 2020 Season 1 course of tracks. And then we'll reset into week 13. Everybody will get either a demoting or an upgrade in their license level and see where they'll end up for the next season of action here on iRacing. And Tim Delisle with the commanding lead in the points championship, about 150 points-ish above Paul Ilbrich. So Delisle running away with it, but Ilbrich right now on top here in qualifying, with Tim Delisle sitting in third, and Greg Olson sneaking into P number 2 there with a little less than a minute left here in qualifying at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, I hopped into the practice session before this race, and I was surprised to see Tim Delisle actually down the order, but you never know with qualifying sessions and open practice sessions. They all go on a different time scale, and the session I was in, it was actually sunset right there, so the track had crazy amounts of grip, but these top three all in the 126 times. Expect a 1-2-3 fight for the ages here at the Glen, because the separation between Ilbrich and Olson, 1/100th of a second.
And we saw in practice those times were a little bit slower. A 127.437 was the fastest time from practice, and that was from Herbino. And Herbino right now qualified in the 4th spot. We'll see if that changes in between now and the time they will start heading onto the grid. But as qualifying wraps up, our drivers will get on the grid. Paul Ilbrich starting on the pole with a 1 minute 26.634. Greg Olson in second. Third, Tim Delisle. Fourth, Christoph Herbino. In fifth, it's Rob Crouch. Sixth, Joshua Stewart. Seventh, Edward Samborski. Eighth, Rob Bohr. Ninth, James Pinsker. 10th, Ronaldo Augusto. 11th, Cedric Bill. And rounding out your top 12, Urka Lindstrom. 13th, Steve Honan. 14th, I am Keeman. 15th, Amal Yanez. 16th, Nicholas Bradford. 17th, Omar Baja. 18th, Perry Gormans. 19th, Patrick Letavet. And rounding out your field of 20, it's James Clay. Here in the Formula 3.5s, everybody grading onto the Watkins Glen front stretch. We're getting ready to go green. Still waiting on a couple more drivers to grid up. This week, of course, famous with motorsports, Daytona Speed Weeks on the NASCAR side. But we are way north of Daytona, up in New York. And everybody making their way onto the grid. Just a couple more rounds left until the season ends. Last minute points and last tracks before the schedule resets for the next season. Ilbrink on the grid, still waiting on Herbino, Crouch, Stewart, and Pinsker.
1, 2, 3.
Delisle on the grid, Crouch on the grid. Waiting on the last couple of drivers. Everybody getting their cars started and ready on the grid before we see those lights turn on and immediately turn to green. Now just waiting on Pinsker, and there he is. We are getting ready to go green flag racing. The lights are up. The Formula 3.5s, all of them, tires spinning, ready to go. We're green flag racing at Watkins Glen.
Great start. 3 wide at the start. Look at Paul Ilper defending onto the inside line, then swinging out to the outside line. And all these guys using that runoff area to their advantage. They're 4 wide at the very exit. But look at the front. Ilbrink, Olsen, Delisle, and Herbino trying to get his way on Tim Delisle. Side by side, and we got a crash. Greg Olsen.
Olsen around, coming off of the S's through turn number 4 onto the back straight. A huge crash for Greg Olsen. Nobody else involved, but Greg Olsen had such a fast car, and it's already damaged here at Watkins Glen. Everybody now heading into the boot, down the chute into turn number 6, and they'll head down to the hairpin, also known as the toe, here at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, this is great news for your Paul Ilbrink. Crash happened behind him. That separated the field up just a little bit, and Delisle has got Herbino right behind him, and these two are in a good fight. But Paul Ilbrink is in the running right now to be running away from the field. But great start for Renato D'Augusto, jumping up 3 spots, as well as Erica Lindstrom. I am Keyman. But the biggest mover so far is James Clay, who's moved up 4 spots. Let's take a look at this replay as Greg Olsen, who got a big old wiggle before the DRS sign. I believe he enabled DRS, and that
might have been dirty air there. The cars get very light coming off of those S's. It could have possibly just been a combination of the dirty air from Paul Ilbrink in front of him, and that was able to spin him around. Joshua Stewart in 4th, looking into the first turn, but not going to go for the pass. Currently ahead of him is Christoph Herbino. And up from Herbino, Tim Delisle sitting in 2nd as Ilbrink continues to march his way up through the field.
Yeah, looking at Edward A. Samborski in his
they are tight down there.
His green car. He's got a good old draft. Looking for that outside move along this long right-hander. It's very fast. You barely get off the grass. Oh, he got into the curb. Samborski got sent out wide after Stewart clipped the curb right there. And Samborski is battling with Crouch now.
Samborski getting a little loose there, and he got pushed out wide through the outer loop. And coming down that straightaway, it looks like the NASCAR stock cars out at Daytona this week running in a line, catching a draft off of everybody. We might see more of that down that long back straightaway because it is just a long straight between turns 4 and 5. They're not using that inner loop and around. Who is that spinning? That is Cedric Bill. Around in the gravel. Was that another instance of dirty air? It could have been possibly a little bit of netcode.
He got tapped by... I don't know who tapped him, though. It was Steve Honan that tapped him. And we got cars spinning. We got cars in the back. Massive crash.
Who is that flipping?
Patrick Gorman went into the catch fence. Omar Baja's going the wrong way on the track right now. Patrick Leovet.
Leovet was able to get around it. I think that was Omar Baja with him.
Yes. What a massive hit.
Everybody stacked up there, and it looks like they just got 2 stacked up. It was the accordion effect of braking. And Barrett Gorman ending up flipping and ultimately ending up on his lid. Thank goodness this is a sim and not real life. and he was able to be safe at home behind his wheel, but definitely a broken spirit for him, as he is now in the pits along with Omar Baja. Looking at another replay. This is from Patrick Letivet, and you can see just both of them spun right in front of him. Letivet was able to get by.
Massive, massive crash. One of the biggest wrecks I've seen here on iRacing. And I race a lot of ovals, and I've seen some crazy stuff. That one's up there.
Ilbrink continuing to lead. Delisle in second. We're used to seeing Delisle either in the lead or in second within striking distance, and that is currently what we are seeing. Delisle even catching up slightly, down to 7/10 of a second. It was 8/10 of a second when they came out of the boot and went down into turn number 10.
Tim Delisle, new fastest lap of the race. He is closing in on Paul Ilbrink, and expect him to be closing in a lot more because he's in the draft and he can use his DRS. Been talking to a lot of drivers on where their optimum DRS point is. They said immediately after turn 1, but it's very risky, especially if you're in dirty air, as this is Greg Olson getting back on the track after that opening lap incident.
Yeah, a tough break for Greg Olson. Had a fast car, qualified on the shotgun of the field in second. So not what Greg Olson wanted. Came crashing coming out of the S's on lap 1. But he is still on the track, currently being registered in P17. Everett Samborski in a battle right now with Joshua Stewart. He'll go to the outside as they head into the as they head into the outer loop.
Coming out of the toe, heading down the chute into the heel. Side by side they go, but Samborski getting ahead of Stewart. So a place that he would very like being after Stewart came up high on him and pushed him out wide to send him down the field. Samborski back up into P4 in his home track.
Stewart got a little bit loose there coming out of the coming out of the boot in turn number 9. Right now, all over the back of him is Rob Crouch. And all over the back of Rob Crouch is Ronaldo Augusto. These three are very close to each other. Stewart clipping the grass as he heads into turn number 11.
Stewart's been extending the track a lot. And expect him to be a little bit of a catalyst for these guys right behind him as he goes way wide coming out of turn 1. That is part of the track. You can't go out there. Just make sure you get back on the track before you hit the grass to avoid that off-track penalty. Running on board
Best
with
lap of
Augusto.
the race so far is Christoph Herbeno with a 1:28.24. A good lap from Herbeno. He's currently sitting in P number 3. You're looking at Augusto right now. Not running with those cars on the inside line, not getting any sort of a slipstream or a draft from him. Augusto relying on all 530 horsepower of his naturally aspirated V8 in his Formula 3.5, not relying on any slipstream or draft there coming down the back straight.
Yeah, Stewart was actually down onto the inside with Crouch. Stewart had DRS open and Crouch just followed him for that free draft. We got a car stopped. That is Christopher Herbeno. Herbeno's in the wall coming out of the toe.
Herbeno with an unfortunate break. Not sure what happened. And he just got into the grass and got loose.
Got onto the grass, smacked the wall with his right side of the car. There's no damage that I can see. But he might have a little small bit of suspension damage that will affect his performance. But we've seen him fight through a little bit of that before. But everything's looking all right for Christopher. So sitting in 7th, time to fight back up the field for Christopher Herbeno.
Don't believe Herbeno has any damage. Currently sitting on the track, P number 7, and he is up to speed. And he is full speed, so do not believe Herbeno has any damage. But as I say that, going to the outside, that is Urko Lindstrom blasting right by him down the back straight.
Yeah, Lindstrom with that DRS being used. Herbeno also had DRS, but Lindstrom had the draft. You can tell if the car is using DRS if you can see that little slit underneath the rear wing. If it is closed, DRS is enabled. If it's open, DRS is not enabled. Drivers can use 8 uses of DRS per race at any point of the track, and each use is limited by a time amount in between them, and I believe the time amount is 70 seconds.
And every time we see these cars on any track, we always talk about when will drivers use the DRS. And every time we've asked them, they said usually they're saving them up for later in the race. So it is definitely good to know that we could see a lot more moves for the lead and a lot more passes coming up later in the race. What happened with Ronaldo Augusto here? Oh,
coming out
13 got, that was Rob Crouch that got loose in front of him.
Crouch. Big ol' slide. We got a big ol'
car
slide.
spinning. Who was that spinning? Was that Herbino? No,
That's
it was Augusto. Ronaldo Augusto, right after Rob Crouch got loose right in front of him. He gets loose coming out of turn number 1. Just losing the car there. Rob Crouch barely missing him coming off of turn number 1.
Back live, Herbino and Bohr side by side. Herbino gets onto the inside curve. Bohr swings it around the outside. And now Herbino is under attack from Aya Keeman, who's looking around the outside as they're entering the boot. But it's Christopher Herbino ahead of Keeman. Keeman's got a good draft. Keeman's looking around the outside in that braking zone. But Herbino, it's just so hard to pass right there, especially in these cars because they have so much grip going into that corner.
Not a possibility that he could use a DRS charge, but I don't know if he wants to use them all so early. I am Keeman trying to chase down Herbino. He is able to stay within striking distance. I believe if he does use a DRS charge, he does have a chance of passing him, but I don't think it's worth it to use it this early. It is only lap 8 of 25 here at Watkins Glen.
And from what we've seen so far of so many incidents,
I love that shot right there. Shows the speed.
Oh, we got a car
another
stop.
one around.
Is that a... That can't be. That's Tim Delisle.
Tim Delisle around in the S's. And now he gets wing damage trying to get it back straight. An unbelievable series of events that have just happened. What happened to Tim Delisle, your points leader here in the Formula 3.5 series? What on earth happened? He got loose coming off of 1. We've seen it plenty of times today, and it strikes Tim Delisle. And another shot here. Just clips that grass. You can see it get up off of all 4 Michelin tires. And he had struggle getting it back straight. Now in P16 with that wing damage. An unlucky race for Tim Delisle right now. Ilbrink is smiling from ear to ear as he pulls away now from Edward Samborski, who sits in P number 2.
Paul Ilbrink is definitely smiling ear to ear because his championship rival, who is leading the championship, is down in 16th place. And if that ended, it's going to close up the championship a lot right now. Herbino diving down to the inside. Little bit of a wiggle coming out of the final corner. And Steve Honan, he's following James J. Pincer, who had a great race the other time. It took his first win at Spa.
That shot is so cool, seeing all of the cars just speed right up the S's. These cars, even though they only have 530 horsepower, make no mistake, they are incredibly fast, especially when they get in line with each other in a slipstream. And that's happening so much down the back straight, and they come in to turn number 5, the outer loop, and they have such immense speed, and they can keep going with that speed throughout the entire corner because of the amount of downforce and grip these cars have. And Delisle in pit road getting that car fixed and getting some fresh Michelin tires on there. Herbino. We've been talking about Herbino all race. Has a fast car, currently sitting in P number 7. Look at Delisle flips coming off of pit road.
This is not going Tim Delisle's way.
This is not the race for Tim Delisle. Holy cow, what happened? Oh, he just got loose. First gear coming out of Watkins Glen. That pit road access road is such a slippery part of the track. Oh, two wrecking now. Right in the front of the S's. That's Steve Honan and I Am Keeman both around and wrecked. I Am Keeman's car is junk. He'll tow it back to the pit lane. Got pushed wide, and it looks like the same thing that happened to Tim DeLisle. All four tires leave the ground, and he just collided with Steve Honan, and that was all she wrote for both of those drivers. And I think Steve Honan is still on the track and still going. I Am Keeman in the pits. Urbano staying in front of James Pinsker as he makes his way up and out of the toe and down the boot and into the heel. Urbano marching his way up through the field. He has lost 3 positions since the start of this race and is currently about 15 seconds back to your leader, Paul Ilbrink. And Ilbrink continuing to pull away from Edward Samborski, who is currently in the 2nd spot.
Yeah, Paul Ilbrink with that with that massive lead he's got to the rest of the field, with Samborski ahead of Stewart and his little pack, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, all with each other, as Christopher Hermano is still trying to recover from his earlier spins. But this race is definitely a race of attrition happening here around the Glen. Anything can happen at this point with all these guys in these two-way packs, as this is a big spin. Honan coming out of the heel.
That could have been a product of his damage that he had from this wreck right here. You can see damage to the front end and the wing of that car. Yeah, he couldn't go anywhere. I Am Keeman just came right into his view, and he landed right on his wing. And there goes Steve Honan into the pit lane to get whatever more damage he has from both of his wrecks fixed. Pinsker now found his way finally past Urbano, and Urbano's off track.
Urbano's just trying to carry as much speed as he can, just carry too much speed heading into the boot, and we got a car stop. That's Rob Bohr stopped on the short chute coming out of heel.
Bohr now back in 10th, slow down at the bottom of the racetrack. First, let's take a look at Urbano. Went off track coming into the boots. And Rob Bohr, looks like same situation that happened earlier in the race. But I forget who that was. I think it was
Urbano.
Yeah, it was Urbano, where they just got up a little bit too far and got loose. And you can see Ilbrink almost made the same mistake other drivers did, going over that grass part coming off of turn number 1, but he quickly swerved, is 6.5 seconds ahead of Edward Samborski. Austin, we're used to seeing this type of commanding lead with Tim DeLisle, but with DeLisle out of this race, we're now seeing it from Paul Ilbrink.
It's either Tim DeLisle or Greg Olson, but both teammates are having horrible races, but Paul Ilbrink is at 1 with this track. And I wasn't seeing this from Paul Ilbrink this week. I wasn't really sure who to pin in as a clear favorite, but after the practice session I was just in with these guys, Paul Ilbrink is on another level here at the Glen.
Down the boot for Paul Ilbrink. Just about halfway done with this race. Ilbrink has led every single lap since the green lights. And he is continuing to do that. Samborski and Joshua Stewart very close to each other, about 0.8 of a second away from each other as they're in the battle for 2nd place. You can see him coming out of the boot there. Samborski still leading over Joshua Stewart. Rob Crouch there within striking distance of the two. We might see this little battle heat up as we get closer to the end of the race and everybody starts to get a little bit more liberal with that push to pass DRS button.
Looking at Samborski ahead of... Ooh, that was very, very wide from Stewart. And Joshua Stewart making that very wide, but actually it was interesting because Stewart and Crouch and Samborski, they all took different lines heading into turn 1. And all these drivers, I was talking with which aero package that they were using, trying to pick their brains, and they were actually going with a very high aero package to keep it just full throttle throughout these corners and not lift off, and that's actually paying a lot for them. But if you get into the draft of one of these cars, that slipstream just keeps you locked in with them like we saw at Zandvoort.
You can hear the tires screeching as they go down through that corner. That is the hairpin in the boot, famously known as the toe of the boot. You can hear just how much the tires are screaming because they are turning that wheel so much to get it to turn.
And they're just maximizing how fast they have to go through there. The hours they spend in practice to just get that turn pinpoint accurate just shows you how much that they're going. These V7 tires, though, you don't want to push them too far or else they'll start wearing them out. And we're going to have to be dealing with some tire degradation soon.
And Austin, I've not talked about tires this whole race, and I feel like that is incorrect for me to do. Let's talk about tires here. This new V7 tire model, talked about it at the beginning of the season. Everybody was reluctant, and everybody was just trying to figure out how to use it. Now we're in week 10. Have these drivers figured out how to maximize the new tire model, and are they doing that here in this race as Patrick Letivet is slow?
Well, it's become second nature to be driving these V7 tires, and if you switch from V7s to V6, you kind of be like, you used to drive all this? No, but it's changed on how they tackle opening laps and out laps, and it's become second nature. I hardly notice that I'm driving the first laps actually a much easier now. But it does change on track re-entry because these things become ice whenever they come in contact with grass. And it also changes on how hard you attack these corners, especially if there's not a pit stop in sight in these races.
Going back to what happened with Patrick Letivet, you saw it just a moment ago. He spun coming off of the boot, and you can see his wheel turn halfway to the right, and he was going straight. So wheel damage for him. He is currently in pit road. We'll see if he can get it fixed and get back out on the racetrack. Herbino also in pit road, now one lap down. Delisle, Keeman, and Herbino all registered as out. Omar Baha, Perry Gorman, Nicholas Bradford, and Patrick Letivet are all in pit road and registered as still in the race. Only 3 drivers are pronounced out. Those other 4 are pronounced as off the track. But we still have 13 drivers left on the track right now, and Paul Ilbrink is commanding all of them in first. Second, Edward Samborski. Third, Joshua Stewart, who you're on board with right now. Rob Crouch sits in fourth. Urka Lindstrom in fifth. James Pinsker in 6th, James Clay in 7th, Amal Yanes in 8th, Rob Bohr in 9th, and rounding out your top 10 is Cedric Bill, and your last 3 drivers on the racetrack is Ronaldo Augusto, Greg Olson, and Steve Honan in that order.
Yeah, Stewart on the last step of the podium, but this is really the battle on track for all the podium spots, all the rest of the podium spots, with Samborski and Stewart being in those prime spot. And we got Rob Crouch just hunting for that one spot he has. We got 10 to go here around the Glen. Anything can still happen.
Yeah, anything can happen, and we saw Tim Delisle wreck coming into the S's, and we could see that from Paul Ilbrink. He's been very consistent this whole race, but we thought it would be impossible for Tim Delisle to make a small mistake like that and end up in the wall. So it is very possible that Paul Ilbrink, by the end of this race, could end up in the wall. And oh my goodness, they take that final corner so fast looking at it on board.
Yeah, I was on track with these guys in practice session, and heading through that final corner, Tim Delisle flew straight past me, and I thought I was looking at a different car with the amount of speeds that he takes through there. That just shows you how much grip these cars have and how slow I am as well.
Austin, I agree with you. You should stick to broadcasting, but so should I. I'm very slow in these cars as well. That's why I also stick to the ovals as well as broadcasting. Looking back at Joshua Stewart, and you can see those virtual eyes of his iRacing character just locked in on the race as he tries to chase down Edward Samborski. Heading into this turn, it's another turn that takes so fast, only going down into 3rd gear from 6th. Just so fast through that corner as he tries to chase down Samborski. He is in that slipstream, not doing much for him. As you see, all of that rubber starts to build up on the track. That track going to start to get a little bit greasy That is possible here as the sun beats down on this track, but the sun is also setting. Austin, are these drivers going to get a little bit more grip before the end of this race? We're taking another look here at Joshua Stewart, trying to chase down Everett Samborski. This is the main battle out on the track right now. These two are the closest to each other, as well as Rob Crouch sitting in fourth, just waiting to pounce. And you're now looking back at James Clay, who stopped on the racetrack right outside of the final turn, turn 11. What happened here? And he spins a hard hit on the left side of that car for James Clay, and he stopped it on the front stretch and towed it into pit road. Like Austin was saying, just got into the grass and right into the wall. A severe loss of grip there for James Clay.
Clipped the curb onto the inside. That's upset the car. These cars, the suspension gets very tricky. We saw at Nürburgring where they hit the curb and they just start bouncing, and that just takes the wheel off the pavement, and that sends him going very wide.
And Ilbrink actually started to pull away a little bit more from Edward Samborski, but now it's kind of reached its maximum point. I don't think he's been above 8.8 seconds above Samborski so far this race. So we'll see if Samborski maybe starts to catch up to Ilbrink. Possible Ilbrink might have burned his tires up, but we'll have to see as the course of this race continues. We will come around to the start-finish line and have 7 laps to go. As you're looking at Amalia Ness currently in a battle with Rob Bohr, who's sitting behind him.
Oh, we got a big spin!
Oh, and that was Amalia Ness! The broadcaster curse strikes again on Yanez.
Oh, very tricky rejoin from Yanez, almost coming into Cedric
That's
Bill.
his teammate too, Cedric Bill.
Oh my goodness, craziness happening in these final corners, but Yanez
he
is
lost
just all
it.
himself. He's right on board with his teammate.
Bill.
Oh.
That was a close one.
Thankfully, Cedric was all by himself, so he could lift off and avoid that and not take that full throttle and have a snake avoidance with another pack of cars.
Ronaldo Augusto is in pit lane. And there's damage to that wing. Did he have a wreck earlier that had damage to the wing, or was it possible that something happened here just a little bit ago when we weren't paying attention? He's still got that damage there. He's got a lot of damage. Also missing the engine cover.
Yeah, Augusto, this is when that spin was. I do
Oh,
remember.
That's Herbino. Is that Herbino? No, that is. Who's that spinning on the front stretch right there? Was that Herbino spinning on the front?
That was.
Oh, got one of the. Oh, hard hit. Right on the curb.
Hard hit into the pit barrier, into the pit entrance. This is not where you want to hit a car so hard right there. Samborski using DRS ahead of Stewart and Crouch, who are front wing to gearbox with each other as they're heading into the boot. Samborski on his home track, looking for a great finish.
The only American in the field other than Omar Baja, and Baja is currently sitting in the pit. So Samborski representing the lane of the free and the home of the brave here in New York, here at Watkins Glen, and he's doing a great job of holding back Joshua Stewart. Stewart hasn't been able to get anywhere close enough to make a pass on Samborski just yet.
Yeah, this guy's been sitting in a pretty good holding pattern, but I'm expecting it to go pretty wild with 5 laps to go.
They will come around next time by and grab that 5 to go. Paul Ilbrink still in the lead, and he is commanding it too, up through the S's, knocking a couple drivers 1 lap down. And you can see he just keeps getting faster too. That is what I hate about Paul Ilbrink. He gets out in front and he just keeps getting faster. He does not let up. He is like, Austin used it before we went live. He is like an alien out here on this track, just putting together perfect laps. And it's the same line every lap, too. He knows how to hit those marks. And Stewart was a little bit faster than Samborski through Sector 1, lost a little bit of time through Sector 2. We'll see if Stewart can make it up here in the third sector and put together a whole lap time as Ilbrink stretches his lead to about 10 seconds now over Samborski. Sector 3, faster for Joshua Stewart. What'll happen when they come across the start-finish line? Will it be a complete lap for Samborski? Will he be faster than Joshua Stewart on the lap time coming across the line?
Stewart's getting
another
a good
faster
run.
sector for Stewart.
Coming down the front straight. Let's take a look from Samborski. Is DRS being used by Stewart? No, it is not.
An overall better lap for Joshua Stewart that time by a 128.894 was the lap from Samborski. Joshua Stewart on our Apex Racing TV timing at a 128.88, so a very small margin there, but still a faster lap. And Rob Crouch within striking distance of Joshua Stewart. He'll go to the outside line as they make their way through turn 5.
He was using Stewart's DRS to give him the boost, and he saved his own DRS from using it, and Crouch swinging it around the outside. They go side by side, entering the boot.
Side by side, making their way into the toe. Who will come out on top? Stewart as the inside line. He'll get there, but Rob Crouch still on the gearbox. They're side by side once again, heading down the boot.
That's held up Stewart and allowed Samborski to get a good old lead to keep P2. But that fight between between Stewart and Crouch is getting absolutely wild. Another good battle is the battle for 5th between James J. Pinsker and Erica Lindstrom.
Lindstrom only about 3/4 of a second back from Pinsker, making their way onto the front straightaway. Sun is starting to set, starting to get a little bit dark around the Watkins Glen International Raceway. And grip gonna start to come in more. Currently your fastest time out on the racetrack is still the 128.24 set by Pinsker, but everybody collectively getting a little bit faster as they make their way on to, Greg Olson with the fastest time on 128.21. That's the fastest time of the race. He currently sits in P number 10. But everybody getting faster around the Watkins Glen Speedway. As to the outside, maybe a little bit of contact between Crouch and Stewart, but Rob Crouch on the inside. He'll grab 3rd place away from Joshua Stewart.
What a beautiful move from Rob Crouch. Swinging around the outside and staying right there for that inside move. They're carrying all the speed as they're heading into the boot. Wonderful move for Crouch. He's on the podium.
Now he needs to keep that podium spot. Still 4 laps remaining in this motor race. He'll need to hold off Joshua Stewart. But Rob Crouch with that beautiful hook inspect map car past Joshua Stewart and now is sitting in 3rd. His next mission is to catch Edward Samborski. But Austin, does he have enough time? We only have 3 laps remaining.
Crouch and Samborski are literally nose to nose on lap pace. Samborski has a faster lap time, and he's been pulling away, but we'll see this lap if Samborski is going to let Crouch come back up to him, or is he going to keep the hammer down? Crouch was in that battle with Stewart, so we'll see. Well, that definitely affected him, but in these 2 laps, I don't believe Crouch can catch up to Samborski.
Through Sector 1, Crouch had a faster Sector 1 time by 0.275 of a second. Let's see what happens in Sector 2. Another faster time for Rob Crouch, getting steadily faster as the lap time goes on. What'll happen here in sector number 3, 5 sectors around this Watkins Glen International Raceway. We'll see what happens in sector 3, making their way out of turn number 7, the toe of the boot here in Watkins Glen. Sector 3 time, it's faster than Samborski once again by a little bit less than 2/10. We'll see sector 4 as they come up and out of the boot. What'll the lap time or the sector time be? Is it faster once again? No, way slower for Rob Crouch. 0.352 seconds behind Samborski through sector 4. Let's see sector 5 in the whole lap. Across the line goes Samborski, and across the line, a faster sector 5 time. Looking at the lap times, Samborski with a slower last lap. Rob Crouch overall faster with a 128.30.
Crouch, though, very disastrous mistake coming out of the boot in the heel section. He's been struggling with there, had a big old wiggle on corner exit. And that might have hurt his chances to catch up to Samborski and attempt to pass. But he definitely flew away from Stewart, and he's locked into 3rd place.
Yeah, Rob Crouch, all he wants to do right now is use these 2 laps to his advantage, try and catch up to Edward Samborski. And he's doing a pretty good job of it right now. He is getting collectively faster, but I don't think he's going to have enough time, because when they come across the line this time by, it will be white flag with 1 more lap to go in this race. Paul Ilbrink, you're still your leader of this race. He'll come through turn number 10, down the small short chute into turn number 11, and onto the Watkins Glen front straightaway, and he will grab that white flag one more time around Watkins Glen for Paul Ilbrink.
He's so far ahead. 2nd and 3rd just came onto the front straight to take their last lap as well, as Pinksy has caught up to Stewart. Let's see if he's going to try to do a last lap pass on Joshua Stewart. Stewart, big old wiggle coming out of turn 1, kicking up a little bit of dust. Here comes James J. Pinkster in the draft, looking down onto the inside of the S's side by side as they're heading down the back straight. And Pinkster, he's got the lead. He's got the outside line.
Does Stewart have DRS, and is he going to use it? Pinsker down to the inside line to protect, but to the outside goes Joshua Stewart. No DRS from either driver, but they make their way through the outer loop, and pulling away now is Pinsker away from Joshua Stewart.
Great
Jumping
move
up
on
to the
Pinsker.
front now. Paul Ilbrink making his way up and out of the boots. A dominating race for the Radicals Online driver through turn number 10 and 11. 25 perfect laps from the driver of the number 2 machine. Onto the front straightaway, taking the win at Watkins Glen, it's Paul Ilbrink. Ilbrink grabs the lead, grabs the win. Now let's see the battle for second. Samborski through the final corner. He'll secure P number 2 with Rob Crouch coming home P3, and he is happy about it.
Crouch definitely gonna be happy. Pacer, he's gonna be over the moon happy, because I was talking with James before the race, and he was not. He was expecting to be way off the top, and this is on the last lap. Right now to Gusto, heading into the boot, hard into the wall. But Pacer was talking to him before the race. He would never expect himself to be in P4. He was expecting himself to be in at least 7th and lower.
And the last car on the track comes across the line in P number 10. That's Greg Olson. Paul Ilbrink grabs the win here at Watkins Glen. 25 amazing laps from the driver of the number 2 machine. He grabs the win here in New York. In second, Edward Samborski. Third, Rob Crouch. Fourth, James Pinsker. Fifth, Joshua Stewart. Sixth, Urka Lindstrom. Seventh, Rob Bohr. Eighth, Cedric Bill. Ninth, Amalia Ness. Rounding out your top 10 was Greg Olson. Steve Honan finishes 1 lap down in 11th. Ronaldo Augusto finishes 2 laps down in 12th. And then the drivers that finished in pit road, James Clay, Patrick Letavette, Christophe Herbino, Nicholas Bradford, I M. Keeman, Tim Delisle, Omar Baha, and Perrick Gormand, rounding out the full 20-car field of drivers. Austin, what a race, a lot of carnage, but a lot of great moves and moments, especially for Paul Ilbrink, a dominating performance.
Definitely dominating. A lot of unfortunate incidents throughout the race for a lot of our top runners, but Paul Ilbrink, solid, fast, solid. How many times can I say solid? I believe I can say it 25 times because that's how many laps that he was absolutely solid this race. What a race by Paul Ilbrink, and what a race for Everett A. Samborski, up 5 spots to take P2 in his home race.
Yeah, and Edward Samborski had just as commanding of a race as Tim Delisle. Gained 5 spots off the start and stayed in P number 2 the entire race, fending it off from Crouch and Pinsker as they were in 3rd and 4th. We do have some drivers waiting in the interview waiting area. Austin, if you want to bring in the first of them, that is Tim Delisle.
Howdy, Tim. How are you doing?
Not great. How are you guys?
Doing pretty well. Exact opposite of you, I know. It was a hard race, unfortunately, early on. Well, mid-race, you had that incident in the S's, and then you had that incident coming out of the pit lane, almost mirrored of what I did in front of you coming out of the pit lane in the practice session.
Actually, it was, yeah. I hadn't even realized that. But yeah, I figured I'd come here and talk about it because it might be a bit like therapy. I don't know. I'm just really, really angry at myself. It was, I don't know. The race was going pretty well. Like qualifying was a bit sloppy. But then Greg had an incident which was really unfortunate. But I was, just sitting tight behind Paul, saving my DRS. I was planning to just sort of maintain that gap if I could and then make a late run in the race, but it never got to that stage. So yeah, it was an easy mistake to make. If you get a little bit too wide there, the bumps coming back on the track are really extreme. And then when I got my repairs done, I think I was just so angry that I floored it out of the pits and ended up flipping a bunch. So yeah, race to forget.
Well, thankfully there are 2 more races left after this, and I believe with your good points, you are still in the lead of the championship, and this is definitely one of those races that you do never want to forget about. We're looking at the start right now, and you were right behind your teammate who went into the wall and split-second decision flying back up the track, narrowly avoiding him. So you escaped disaster by the skin of your teeth, but disaster always lurks around these opening corners.
Yeah, I feel like it's a bit worse when it's self-inflicted too, because there's no one else you can blame. But yeah, I think I'm gonna, because I've done reasonably well with my drop week, so I think I'm gonna take next week off to try to regain my sanity a bit, build back a bit of confidence, and then come back and attack it into Lagos, which is one of my favorite tracks.
All right, you're taking a vacation as we visit the land of pizza next week at Amola.
Yeah, maybe I'll get some pizza to watch the race.
All right, before we let you go, anyone want to shout out?
The same Positive Sim Racing, you guys for the broadcast, and just Paul he drove a perfect race. We did a few races yesterday, and he got unlucky in those ones. So he's been quick all weekend. So I think he's earned this win. So congrats to him.
All right, thank you, Tim.
Moving on now to our race winner, Paul Ilbrink. A dominating performance from you here today on Watkins Glen. Just talk about the entire race from start to finish. Did it just kind of feel like practice for you? You were kind of out there alone for pretty much the entire race.
Well, not quite like practice, because in practice I go fast and die every couple laps. But yeah, it was a pretty good race for me. I promised I would win in Zandvoort, which I didn't, but 1 week later I did it. So yeah.
You had the fastest time on the racetrack at the end of the race, a 127.72. Seemed like everybody just kept getting collectively faster and faster. How was it for you in that car as the sun started to set and the grip on the racetrack started to build up?
Well, at first I thought the track became a bit slower after the first couple of laps, or probably the tires going off more. But when the car got lighter, it became a little bit quicker. I could do like low 28s again, like 28s, 1 or 0 even. But yeah, I was fortunate enough that I didn't have to use any DRS the whole race, and I saved them all for like the final 3 laps. And to be honest, I used it like 3 times each lap in the last couple of laps, and uh, that it might be the fastest lap of the race, but it should have gone a bit quicker. I think like a 0.5 maybe, but I'm happy. So yeah, all's good.
We're heading into the land of pizza, Imola, next week. You still got a little bit of more work to do on Tim Delisle if you want that points championship. Are you focusing on the points championship, or are you focusing on each race individually?
No, I'm not focusing on that. I mean, the gap is quite big, and he has such good point scores in weeks before. So I need some kind of like a miracle, super high strength of fields, and bad luck for Tim for me to catch up with him. So no, I'm just looking to, I guess, consolidate P2 in the championship and just have some good races.
Anyone else you would like to thank?
Yeah, just everybody at my team, Radicals Online, and our partners and sponsor, Cranfield Simulation, Joe Real Timing, Arma Center, Asta Sim Race, Modev Podcast, Turn Racing, Simmortals, Exciteways, and Pixel Dust.
Well, thank you very much. Your race winner, Paul Obrink, here from the Watkins Glen International Raceway. Austin, if you want to bring in our P2 finisher, Edward Samborski.
Howdy, 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 Mr. Samborski. How you doing?
I am excellent. That was,
P2.
whew, yeah. What a, I am. I was already tired. I drove my snowmobile today, and I joined this. I was like, all right, I'll just have a nice, easy race. Yeah, about that.
Well, it's your home track, so I would assume you would always have that extra amount of speed at your home track. I certainly do whenever I'm at Circuit of the Americas. Do you have that just extra speed whenever you come around Watkins Glen?
It must just be because it's the home track. Because I love driving here. It's really fun. I love how it flows. Um, I just think it's really fun to drive. I think actually tomorrow I'm going to jump into the Ford GT and do a little GT action.
Ooh, might join you on that. Throughout
Yeah.
the race, jumped up 5 spots. There were a few incidents at the start of the race, and you managed to get through them easily. You had a great battle with Joshua Stewart, who had a little bit of contact with the curb and pushed you out wide, which pushed you down to 7th place. But you managed to battle up all the way to get into 2nd place. Tell tell us what was going through your mind as you're picking your way through the field.
Oh, when Josh hit the curb, I was like, "Oh my God, not again, not again!" So I just thought, I'm like, "What can I do here to get away and not, prevent contact and not crash?" And then the car just stopped turning. Like when I went out wide like that, I was just praying. I was like, "Oh, no, 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 wall, go away, you go away." And then when I came back on the track, I thought I was gonna snap right and wreck both of them guys. And when it didn't happen, I was like, "All right, we're having a good day, fellas." And then coming through the field, I just tried to be smooth and consistent and use the DRS to try and stay a certain gap that I thought would work. And the only reason I think I held on to P2 is because Rob and Joshua it must have been a lap and a half battle because I was struggling at the end. I had no front end. I just couldn't get the car to turn. But
All right. Well, it's always a pleasure seeing you up out front. Are we going to be seeing you try to do the same thing at Imola next week?
I absolutely hope so. I mean, today I had a couple, I'd say, free gifts that I wouldn't necessarily count on. A couple of really good drivers made some mistakes. I mean, 3 actually that you probably won't see again. So, if I can find the pace and get the handle on the front end of the car a little better, I think I'll be up there.
All right. Well, thank you. Ever before we let you go, anyone want you want to thank?
Well, thank Parrot Corp, the Alamo, and you guys.
Thank you. Thank you. You have
You're
yourself a good day.
Thank you. You too.
All right, I think next we're going to go ahead and bring up your P number 8 finisher, I believe this is. Cedric Bill. Actually, we should bring up James Pinsker first. P number 4 finisher out on the track. James, it was a good effort from you. P number 4, you made some last-minute passes on Joshua Stewart there in the latter half of the race. Talk about the entire race from you from start to finish. How was it out on the track for you in your perspective in these Formula 3.5s?
Hello. It went way better than I expected, to be honest. I mean, historically, this has been a pretty bad track for me. So to be able to finish P4 was a massive surprise. I qualified P9, which was all right, and then I fell back a few places off the start. I assume the stream caught on lap 1. There's a massive like cluster going down the straight. Obviously, I got caught on the bumpy side and dropped quite a few places. Then after that, it was quite a few people crashed, a lot more than I expected. Gained a few places from that, and then had quite a few good moves. My tyre wear throughout the race was surprising as well, so I was just able to make my way up the field really. And then I assume near the end, Joshua Stewart got damage from something because his pace just fell off a cliff, and then I managed to overtake him and get P4. So I'm happy.
And how was the track for you? Of course, the track started to rubber in about halfway through the race. Did it start to get a little bit greasy and slippery out there? Did it kind of maintain a good amount of grip throughout the race?
I'm not sure about the actual state of the track, but one thing I will say is that the tyre wear this race, just in general, is probably the biggest I've ever seen in this car. Like the effective tyre wear throughout the race, it can really cause. It was probably why we saw quite a few crashes, because when the tyres wear off, it can cause quite a lot of like losses of grip and spins and whatever. Fortunately, for whatever reason, my tyre wear was really nice, so that's why my pace actually stayed up pretty well throughout the entire race. I remember at one point with like 5 laps left, I actually had the fastest lap, which surprised me quite a lot. But yeah, so the grip was all right, but it improved as the race went on.
We're moving on to Imola next weekend, and then right after that, we are finishing out the season. Are you looking forward to the end of the season? Of course, next season comes a new schedule, entirely new feel of the season. Are you looking forward to finishing out this season?
Ooh, I don't know if any of you guys will remember, but last season, in general, I was a lot less competitive than I am now. I'm not sure what happened, but for some reason this season, with the new tire model, I just have a lot more pace than I ever did before. For example, I won in Spa, that was a massive surprise. But last season, the one race where I had good pace was Interlagos. So I'm thinking, with this new tire model and that being my best track, who knows what I could achieve. So I'm really looking forward to that. Imola, I'm not sure about, but Interlagos should be very good fun at least.
Anyone else you'd like to thank before we head out?
No, not really. It's not like I'm in part of a serious team. So yeah, I have no one to thank. I mean, my friends and family. I appreciate the support. But yeah.
Well, thank you very much, James Pinsker, finishing P number 4 out here on the track. Now we're going to get to P number 3 finisher, Rob Crouch. Rob Crouch, a good effort from you, finishing P number 3. You're able to get past Joshua Stewart and run away and make an effort on Edward Samborski. Towards the end of the race, did you kind of feel like your car came alive a little bit? We kind of saw you start to gain a little bit of speed and make some more moves later in the race.
Yeah, so I'm teammates with Joshy, and so when there was the three of us, Ed, Josh, and me, and I was in the back of the train, I just thought, this is awesome for Josh. He really needs it. So I was happy sitting behind him, and I was really just so happy just to be running and then when other people were falling off, I thought he's going to get a podium here. He really needs it. He's had a shocking season. He's just had incident after incident. And then when it got to the end, I thought, if I can get by him, because I had some DRS left, and I thought if I can get by him, maybe I can take a shot at Ed, because I just didn't feel that Josh had the pace to take a crack at Ed. Now, then I even thought that if we just have a battle, like for the broadcast, do it for the fans. And yeah, on his side, it was a bit of netcode. like on his client we touched, and he took a little bit of damage, which slowed him right down, and he didn't even finish fourth. Then he like dropped back to fifth. On my side, like I looked at the replay, there's like a metre and a half between our cars, so yeah, it's just one of those. We get us Australians get brutalised by the net code every now and then, and this was one of those cases. So I feel pretty bad about it because I really did steal a good podium off my buddy Josh. So I feel pretty bad about it, but still happy to get in the podium. Guilty.
Did you feel like you would have had an effort to pass Edward Samborski if you had more time, or do you feel like Samborski would have kind of kept that same gap that you had at the end of the race if you would have kept going for 5, 10, 15 more laps?
My regret is actually from the start. The green lights came on really quick. Like to me, it felt as though we weren't red for very long, and I missed the start like by half a second or so. And I saw Ed come. He got up the inside of me on turn one. And then we had between the three of us, we had a bit of an incident. I think it was like lap 2 around the carousel, the big sweeper. And so after that, I was just like, I'm happy to be here. And I was watching everybody else fall off the track. I'm just like, this is going to be a good finish. Just don't mess up. Just keep calm. And it wasn't until the end of the race I started to think, yeah, I probably could like be fighting, and because we had a big gap behind too, it was like 5-second gap. So I thought, battling's not going to hurt us too much. I can take a shot. So yeah, I felt like I could have been, if I had have got the jump on Ed, I don't know whether I would have been able to hold him off, but I would have been able to lead that train and maybe take the shot at second. But yeah, like I say, my regret was from the start. I couldn't do much about that. So
Anyone else you would like to thank before we would send you out?
yeah, again, just my teammates, Downforce Racing. Again, this week we put in a heap of practice, and we all did really well. We were all like up there again, and it really shows the tracks that we put in the practice and do really well at. Like Catalunya was the other race that we did a heap of practice and learnt a lot from each other. So yeah, this week we've really pushed each other again. So definitely my teammates. And of course, you guys for the broadcast. I got in trouble for not thanking you for the broadcast last time I was on. So thank you. We're organising it again for next season because we love it so much. So cheers, guys.
Well, thank you very much, Rob Crouch, finishing P number 3 here at Watkins Glen. Now we're going to bring in our last interviewee of the night, Cedric Bill. Cedric, a nice race for you tonight. Talk about from start to finish. How was the race from your cockpit?
Hello everyone. Yeah, it was a good race for me. It's a good result on such high rating. But I'm a little disappointed because I was starting on 11, I guess, or something like that, and on the early of the race, Hunan hit me behind, and I was last, so I had to push very hard. And to back on my teammate Patrick Letouvet. It was a hard race, and after a little time, I managed to find a good rhythm. And some drivers make mistakes in front, so I just had to keep my pace, and happy to finish 9, 8.
Well, they say perseverance pays off, and you certainly kept in the race and didn't let one mistake ruin the race for you, and that is something very respectable that a lot of us like about you. On one mistake, and you just stay in the race and try to finish as high as you can, and you finished out in 16th, but hey, it's still better than last place.
In 8, 8, yes.
Oh, in 8th. I'm sorry.
Yes. It's really, yeah, it's a good race because my car wasn't hurt, so I could drive as I used to. But yes, if there wasn't this little contact at the beginning, maybe it would be better. But anyway, the race was great, so I'm happy with it.
Yeah, sorry about the points messed up. The replay jumped my live timing to back to the 16th spot. 8th place, good. You looking forward to Imola?
Yes, of course, because but to be honest, I'm not really fan of this Watkins Glen. Not my type of track, so I will be more comfortable on Imola, and I hope to have good pace because these guys are really fast. There are some aliens here, so for me it's a very good result to be on the top 10, and that's why I wanted to share my happiness on the interview post race.
All right, thank you. Before we let you go, anyone you want to thank?
Yes, of course. I want to thank my teammate MXS Racing, a French team. We were, I think, four. There were Amal Younes, there were me and Pierrick Gourmand. Maybe, and I'm very happy to be with them on the team, working hard on the setup, etc. And we try to be better race after race. So I have to thank them and thank for the stream. A very good stream. It's a pleasure to see all the races and all the drivers, of course. Good game to Paul for the victory.
Thank you
All right,
very
thank
much,
you.
Cedric Bill. You finishing P number 8 here at Watkins Glen. Austin, what an exciting race. Everybody seemed to have a different race of their own going on, and a lot of battles throughout the field, a lot of carnage. We're heading into Imola next week. Do you think we're going to see some of the same, or do you think it's going to be a stark contrast?
It's gonna be. Yeah, I've never really been good at predicting what's gonna happen next week because this series has always been all of the same and then all the different. I mean, it's same as in it's very unpredictable of what happens through the races. Remember what's happened at Nürburgring where just that race is utter insanity, and then Zandvoort where that race is pretty crazy, and what's happened at Spa where we had somebody get their very first win. Uh, it's going to be an experience, and I expect it's going to pull out the best in each of the drivers.
Well, like I said, this race series will be moving on to the land of pizza, Imola, next weekend. Marco is very excited, so we hope to see you back here on the iRacing Esports Network for another iRacing Formula 3.5 series race. For Marco Barbonera, Austin Knight, I am Joshua Lee saying good night from Watkins Glen.